The door didn't creak. It slammed open like the wind had purpose, but there wasn't any wind. Just her, barefoot, dirt up her calves, blood dried along her collar like it had been coughed there. She didn't speak. Just walked in like she owned something no one had seen yet. The sheriff looked up slow, took in the girl, the blood, the thing in her hand. A red ribbon. She stopped 3 feet from his desk, held it tighter. He leaned back, boots scraping wood. "You come to confess?" She didn't answer. He nodded once. "Then I'll ask straight. Who'd you kill?" Still nothing. She looked down at the ribbon, tied around 2 fingers like a noose. He stood, not fast, but steady. "Girl." "I ain't a girl." He paused, took her in closer. "No, I suppose you're not." She looked older than 17, but younger than time, like someone that hadn't slept right since she could walk. He gestured at the chair. "You bleeding?" "No." "Whose blood?" She didn't move, didn't blink, just turned the ribbon once in her palm. He took a step. "You gonna tell me or make me guess?" Her voice came like a strike of stone. "Guessing's what got the last one killed." He froze, looked at the dried blood again. "Yours?" he asked. "No." "Family?" "Something like that." He walked to the stove, lit the kettle, didn't offer her tea. She watched the steam. He watched her. She said, "My mama used to tie this in my hair, said it was all she had to give." He nodded toward the blood. "She give that too." She shook her head. "That came from the man who took it from her." The kettle began to hum. He poured 1 cup, only one, set it on the desk. She didn't sit. He leaned on the edge. "You think this ribbon makes you brave?" "No." "Then why bring it?" "So you'd know who I was." He squinted. "I don't." She finally looked him in the eye. "You will." He sat slow, reached for the file drawer, opened the 3rd one, pulled out a faded ledger. "Your name?" "You won't find it." He flipped pages anyway. "Where you from?" "Washer's place." He looked up, stopped. "Rag washer," he said. She nodded. "You her girl." She held up the ribbon. "Only thing left that proves it." He closed the book. "That house burned." "I know." He stared at her. "I was there." "I know that too." He rubbed his jaw. "I didn't start it." "But you watched it burn." He didn't answer. The silence grew teeth. Finally he said, "That was 10 years ago." "I was 5. He looked like the truth cracked something open. "I remember you," he muttered. "Carried you out myself." She didn't soften. "Then you remember what I said?" He shook his head. "No." "You were holding me. I had blood in my mouth, and I said, 'She's not gone yet.'" His eyes went distant. "I buried her," he said. "No, you buried a shell. You left the part that mattered under the floorboards." He stood fast. "That's enough." She didn't flinch. He pointed at the door. "You want justice? You bring evidence, not ribbon." She stepped forward, laid the ribbon on the desk. "Look under it." He hesitated, lifted the ribbon. Beneath it, a pin, rusted. Sheriff's badge split down the middle. His breath caught. "Where'd you get that?" "Same place you left it." He touched it. The metal left dust on his fingers. "That was buried." He looked up. "You dug it out?" She nodded, along with her voice. The room felt smaller. He leaned closer. "You saying there's a body?" "No, just bones and memory." He sat back, slow. "Why now?" "Because the ribbon don't fit anymore." He blinked. "What does that mean?" She looked at him like it should have been obvious. "It means I'm not 5. I know what silence costs." The kettle screamed. He let it. She stepped forward again. "You still carry a badge." He tapped his chest. "Not for long." She stared at the tin. He asked, "You want it?" "No." "Then what?" "I want the one who put blood on it." "That man's long gone." "No," she said, soft. "He's just quiet, like you were." He crossed his arms. "You got proof." She untied a small pouch from her waistband, set it on the desk. He opened it. A child's tooth, a coin, a photo burnt at the edges. His hands trembled. "That ain't evidence." "It is when you remember what was taken." He stared at her. "Why now?" he asked again. She looked at the wall behind him. He got another girl, young, says she hears screams under the floor. His throat worked to swallow. That house don't stand anymore. It does. He whispered. I saw it collapse. She turned her head. You saw what he wanted you to. The rest was buried, like me. He opened his mouth, closed it again. She said, You owe her a name. He didn't speak. You carried me out. Now carry this. She pointed to the ribbon. He reached for it. She flinched, just once. His hand froze. She stepped back. You don't get to touch it until you name her. He looked down. Washer, he said. No, her real name. He shook his head. I never knew it. She nodded. Then ask your records. Ask the ones who paid. He whispered. There's no files left. She turned toward the door. Then I'll burn what's left. He called after her. Wait. She stopped. He held up the broken badge. If I find it. If I name her. What then? She looked back over her shoulder. Then I'll let go. He didn't know if she meant the ribbon or the fire. She walked out, barefoot, ribbon left behind. He stared at it, reached slow, stopped. The blood on her collar was starting to flake. He whispered, Washer's girl. But she didn't turn back, not once. The ribbon curled in the sunbeam like it remembered being in her hair. And the sheriff, who once called her a saved child, sat down with a broken badge and a memory that had just come home. He didn't notice the stain until after she left. Just a shadow at first. A dark bloom beneath the desk leg, tucked where boots never reached. He leaned down, squinted, rubbed at it with his thumb. Dried, rayed. Too old to be hers. He sat back hard. The chair creaked. The ribbon was still on the desk, curled in on itself like it wasn't done being held. Outside, the sun had shifted. The office felt colder now. He looked at the stain again. When the door swung open, he didn't jump. She stepped back in like she'd only gone out for air. Same dirt on her feet, same blood crusting along her collarbone. Still silent, still watching. You forget something? He asked. She shook her head. You did. He looked down at the ribbon. She said, You didn't ask me his name. I figured you'd give it when ready. I was. He leaned back. Then say it. She nodded toward the floor. I came to name the man who left that. His eyes dropped. The stain looked darker now. He exhaled through his nose. Could have been from anything. Her voice cut sharp. Could have been. Wasn't. You saying you remember? I remember screaming, and her trying to stop it. With her hands. With her whole body. I remember him saying, quiet, like it meant salvation. He swallowed. And that's him. That's where he stood. She pointed. The stain. His chair. His badge. All sat on top of it. He pushed back slowly. Looked like he might be sick. She stepped to the side, crouched low, brushed her fingers along the wood. It's in the grain, she said. Like she is. He crossed his arms. Ain't nobody ever scrubbed that floor. They tried. Her hand hovered above it like she could still feel heat. It comes back every time someone lies in here. That's so, he muttered. She didn't answer. He sighed. You got a name for me or not? She stood. You already know it. Say it anyway. Ephraim. His spine stiffened. Ephraim who? She stared. The only Ephraim that ever came through this office with blood under his nails and cash in his pocket. That's not proof. It's memory. Memory don't hold in court. That's why I brought the ribbon. She moved to the desk, knelt again, tied the ribbon, slow, around the front leg, just above the stain. You tying it like an offering. No, like a marker. He watched her hands. They were steady now. That won't hold, he said. It's not for holding. It's for reminding. He knelt beside her. The desk groaned under both their weight. He said, I remember Ephraim, big man, never smiled right. You let him go 3 times. Because I couldn't hold him. You didn't try. He stared at the ribbon. He worked for the governor, he said. I know. Built fences. Hauled girls. She turned to him. I was 5. I watched him drag her into the shed. I never told, because you told me not to speak until I was sure. He didn't deny it. She said, I'm sure now. He stood, back cracked. What do you want me to do? Start with the floor. He grabbed the mop from the corner, dipped it in cold water, started scrubbing. The stain didn't move. She crossed her arms. He scrubbed harder. Water splashed up his sleeves. Still, the stain stayed. She knelt again, pressed her palm to it. He whispered, "Don't." She said, "It's warm." He dropped the mop. "I can't fix this," he said. "You can name it." "I just did." She stood. "No, you whispered it like a curse. Say it loud." He looked at the open door, then at the floor, then at her. "Ephraim Slade," he said. Louder. "Son of a preacher, builder of fences, breaker of girls." She closed her eyes. The ribbon tightened on the desk leg, as if pulled by breath. He stepped back. "Now what?" "We find the rest." He shook his head. "He's dead. Been gone 3 winters. But what he built's still standing." "Where?" She didn't answer, just walked to the filing cabinet, pulled open the bottom drawer. Inside, photos burned on the edges, receipts, and a key wrapped in oiled cloth. She tossed the key on the desk. He said, "What's that open?" "A barn," she said. "The one no one wants to talk about." "North Ridge." She nodded. "I thought it collapsed." "It did. After he stopped needing it." He lifted the key. "Where'd you get this?" She looked him in the eye. "From the same place I got the tooth." He closed the drawer. "You want me to go there with you?" "No," she said. "I want you to stay here. Sit in that stain. Feel it." He looked down. The red hadn't faded. "I can't undo it." "I didn't ask you to." "What if I'd tried harder?" "You didn't." He nodded. She walked to the door. He asked, "You taking the ribbon?" She shook her head. "It belongs here now." He sat slowly, stared at the knot. The room smelled like iron. She paused at the doorway. There were 7 names in the ledger. Mine was last. Hers wasn't there at all. He whispered, "I remember her face." "Then prove it." "How?" She looked back. "Start with a headstone, then carve hers before you ever carve mine." He didn't reply, just stared at the stain. She left him like that, sitting over it, knees creaking, hands open. The ribbon fluttered once in the draft, tightened, didn't let go. The washing house hadn't changed. Tin roof still half caved, door still hanging by one rusted hinge. Inside, the air stank of lye, sweat, and old soapstone, like time had boiled down and stained everything left standing. She stepped over the threshold like stepping into a grave. Same warped floorboards, same cracked basin, same hooks on the wall where aprons once hung like skin. She moved quiet, careful, like she expected the building to groan awake and remember what happened here. The ledger was still there, 3rd shelf down behind the basket of unraveling thread. Leather cracked, spine peeling. She pulled it slow. Dust lifted like breath. She flipped past pages she already knew. Bolt counts, cloth types, bleached deliveries, bundles sent to the courthouse. Then stopped. Her mother's name. Scrawled in faded ink beside 2 words, "Muslin uncut." No date, no wage, just a name and a fabric. She touched the page like it could pulse. Behind her, the back door creaked. A voice rasped low, female, wrinkled with warning. "You don't belong here anymore." She turned. Her mother's sister stood there, bent, apron tied tight like armor. "I'm not here for belonging." "You won't find her in them pages. She's already there, just not paid." The aunt stepped forward. "He still owns this place. His son now." "She won't tomorrow." A second woman entered. Another aunt. Then a third. They circled like memory. "She didn't leave nothing behind but that ribbon," one whispered. "She left a scream," said another. "She left a name," the girl said. "And I'm gonna give it back." The eldest leaned close. "You dig too deep. You'll bleed for her." She held the ledger up. "Then I'll bleed in ink." She tore the page. The sound ripped louder than the room could hold. The aunts recoiled. One muttered a prayer, another turned away. She folded the page, tucked it in her boot. "What'll you do with it?" "Take it where he can't deny it." "You think the governor's going to let you walk through his gates?" "I don't need his gates, just his fire." The women fell quiet. The girl looked around the room. The water buckets, the ringers, the wooden table where her mother once scrubbed until her palms split. She walked to it, ran her fingers along the grooves in the wood. There, just faint, were tiny scratch marks, letters, a date, carved by shaking hands. "Mama," she whispered, "you tried to speak. One ant said, 'That table's cursed.'" "Not cursed," the girl said. "Just unheard." A low wind pushed the door wider. The sun caught a piece of thread hanging from a nail. Red. She took it, wrapped it around her knuckle until her fingertip went pale. "You tellin' the sheriff?" "I already did." They stiffened. "He's still wearing that badge?" "No, but he's still carrying it." One ant crossed herself. Another spit on the ground. "You bringin' war?" "I'm bringing proof." They watched her walk out like they were watching a fire pass. She didn't look back. Outside, the yard was choked with weeds. The line poles still stood, though the clotheslines had rotted away. She remembered the sound of linens snapping in wind, her mother's voice humming over rinse water. Now there was only silence and dirt. She reached the road. A child stood there, maybe 9, holding a pail. "You the washer's girl." The child's voice was so soft it barely stirred the dust. She nodded. "You got her eyes. Hope I got her fire, too." "You gonna fix it?" "I'm gonna name it." The child nodded, walked on. She headed toward the general store. Same cracked windows, same bent bell over the door. Inside, the clerk looked up, froze. "You ain't supposed to be here." "I need thread, black, and a needle." He hesitated, reached under the counter. "Payment?" She slid the red thread across the wood. He didn't touch it. "What's this?" "A memory." He nodded once, wrapped the needle in paper. Outside, she sat on the bench, took the torn ledger page from her boot, carefully stitched the thread through her mother's name. Every pass of the needle was a heartbeat. When she finished, the red shone like a wound. She stood, folded the page again, tucked it back in her boot. It felt heavier now, like it had weight enough to tip scales. She walked past the old feed store, past the empty well, toward the square. The sun was setting crooked behind the steeple. From across the way, a voice called out, "Girl." She turned. The blacksmith, apron stained, hammer still warm in his hand. He walked over, stopped just short of her shadow. "I seen what he did back then. Why didn't you speak?" "No one asked." "I'm asking now." He pointed at her boot. "That what you gonna bring him?" She nodded. "Won't be enough." "Then I'll bring the floor next." He held out something small. A washer's tag. Bent metal. Number 17. "Found this in the drain last week. Figured it was yours." She took it, closed her hand tight around it. "Thank you." He turned. "Don't thank me yet," he said. "They still own the barn." "I know." "You got a plan?" "I got her name." And she walked on, toward where the river met the ridge, where Ephraim Slade once ran a line of girls through a side door and paid no one but silence, where the governor's barn still stood, but not for long. The church door gave under her hand without resistance. No creak, no latch, just quiet. Inside, the candles were all out but one, a stub near the pulpit, flickering low like it was hiding. She didn't stay upstairs. She walked the side aisle, past the empty pews, past the hymnals with bent corners, and opened the door behind the altar. It led to stairs, stone ones, the kind that held cold in the walls. Basement smelled like mildew and wax. She didn't flinch, just descended, slow, bare feet on stone. She didn't carry a light, didn't need one. The bin was where it had always been, a wire basket big as a trough, rusted at the corners, full of cloth scraps, torn sleeves, burnt aprons, governor's send-offs meant for prison work, or donation, depending who asked. She crouched beside it, ran her fingers through the heap. Every piece carried something, grease, soot, a smear of something long dried. Then her hand stopped. At the bottom, white muslin, soft, faint pink stitching near the hem. Letters, barely there. She lifted it like it would fall apart, turned it gently. The thread curved into an M, then an A. Then the rest was frayed away. But it was enough. She pressed it to her face. It still smelled like lye, like fire. The priest's voice came from behind her. "You come for forgiveness?" She didn't look back. "No." He stepped down slow. Then what? She stood, held the cloth tight in one hand. "For her." He stopped on the last step. "Not for you. I don't need saving." He walked over, looked into the bin. "You're the washer's girl." I'm what's left. He nodded once. She used to sing in here. She used to scream in the washing house. He winced. She believed in grace, he said. She believed in justice. Sometimes those are the same. She turned to him. Not in this town. He didn't argue. She held up the cloth. This was hers. She stitched it. He sent it here like it was trash. Ephraim? No, she said. The one who paid him. The priest looked tired. You planning to name him? I already did. Then what are you doing here? She wrapped the cloth around her wrist, tying her voice to mine. He looked at the rag, at the frayed thread. You think that'll be enough? No, she said. But it's what I have. She turned toward the stairs. He didn't stop her. At the top, she paused. He said, They'll try to take it from you. They already did. Will you fight them? No. Why not? Because I'm not here to win. He frowned. Then what? I'm here to remind them they lost something. The door closed behind her. Outside, the sun had dropped low. The courthouse bell hadn't rung in weeks. The rope rotted out last spring. No one replaced it. She walked slow past the town square. A boy watched her from a stoop. You got a bandage. She looked at the cloth on her wrist. No. Looks like blood, he said. She didn't reply. He said, I seen that cloth before. I know. From the trials. When they made her wear it. She stopped. You were there. He nodded. My pa carried water. Did he pour any on her? The boy looked down. No. But he didn't stop the ones who did. She nodded. He said, You gonna burn it? No, she said. I'm gonna show it. She kept walking. By the time she reached the courthouse, her wrist ached. The cloth had dried stiff. She stood at the steps, looked up, windows dark, doors locked, but the stain was still on the porch rail from years back. Blood again. They never scrubbed it right. She touched it with her fingertips, matched the spot to the cloth on her wrist. It aligned. The door opened behind her. Sheriff, he leaned against the frame. You find what you came for? She raised her wrist. His face paled. She wore that, he said. She sang in it, she said. Before the governor's men gagged her. He looked past her, down the road. Town's not ready for what you're carrying. I'm not carrying it for them. You think showing that will change anything? No, but not showing it is how we got here. He stepped down, reached for the cloth. She pulled back. You don't touch it till you name her right. He nodded. Mary Alice, he said. She let him see the cloth up close now. He didn't reach again. Where are you taking it? Inside. Judge ain't there. He will be. Sheriff shook his head. You really think they'll let you speak? I won't ask. He studied her. What do you want? She unwrapped the cloth, laid it on the steps. Not revenge. Then what? Memory. The breeze caught the edge of the cloth. It flapped once, then settled. You gonna testify? I already did. You just didn't hear it the first time. He stepped aside. Door open. She walked past him. Left the cloth on the step. Let it show. Let it be seen. Let it name what no one else dared to. And inside the dark hallway, she didn't look for light. She already carried enough. She didn't come through the front. She never would. Not for a place that tried to bury her twice, once in silence and once in fire. She slipped in through the alley, past the delivery door, past the iron pantry gate where dried goods used to sit before the war. The lock was rusted. She didn't need to break it. It had already given up. Inside, it smelled like dust and ink. Past the pantry, she ducked under a low beam, kept walking, past the coal chute, past the broken mop bucket. The boxes were still there, stacked high, unmarked, except one, low shelf, far back, thick with grime and mouse droppings. It had a name, written in charcoal. Washer, deceased. She crouched, lit a match. The light flickered against the wood grain. Her breath caught. She opened the box slow. Inside, ash on the bottom, burnt paper curled against the corners, and on top of it, a pair of child's shoes, leather warped, soles split. One had something melted into it. She reached, lifted it, a strip of red, blackened at the edge, but still ribbon, still knotted, still holding. She sat back, match shaking. She tied it on me that day, she whispered. A voice came from behind her, not loud, not angry, just there. Before or after she screamed, she didn't turn. During. The sheriff stepped into the glow. He looked older in the matchlight, smaller. "You knew this was here," she said. "I did. And you left it. I thought maybe forgetting would save you." It didn't. He crouched beside her, looked into the box. The shoes were child small. He said, "I remember carrying you. You had no shoes then. I remember walking out barefoot, and the floor was hot." He picked up the ribbon, didn't try to untangle it. "I should have burned this," he muttered. "You did." He looked at her, she nodded. "That day, with the rest. But it didn't catch." "No." He handed her the shoes. She held them like relics. "Why keep them?" she asked. He shook his head. "Some things stay whether we want them or not." She turned the sole over. The ribbon was fused through the stitching, like it never meant to come off. She tucked the shoes into her satchel. He said, "There's more here. Letters, names." "I don't want names. I want the truth behind them." He stood. "There's a tunnel beneath this crawl space," he said. "Led to the stables. Ephraim used it." He nodded. "They said it was for feed deliveries. But it wasn't." "No." She stood too, looked around the crawl space. Boxes, dust, bone-colored cobwebs. "How deep does this rot go?" she asked. He didn't answer. She lit another match, held it high. The flame caught on a low nail. A bit of fabric dangled. Another rag, stiff, red-stained. She didn't touch it. The sheriff turned away. "I never opened this box before," he said. "You labeled it." "I was told to." "By who?" "You already know." She crouched again, pressed the shoes to her chest. "Why'd you follow me down here?" "I thought maybe you shouldn't be alone." "I've never not been alone." The match was burning low. She touched it to a corner of paper in the box. It caught, slow, sputtered, then flared. The sheriff stepped back. "You burning the rest?" "No," she said, "just the lie on top." Ash curled. Smoke crawled sideways. She stood. The shoes swung at her side. The ribbon glowed a dull red where the flame had kissed it. She looked at the sheriff one last time. "If you had spoken then—" "I didn't. Will you now?" "I don't know how." "Then watch." She stepped toward the ladder. He stayed behind, watching the match burn down, watching the box fall in on itself. The air thickened, but she climbed without coughing. Her knees hit the boards above like a sound from memory. She pushed open the hatch, back into the storage hall, lit only by the sunset bleeding through a high window. She didn't stop, didn't speak, just walked, shoes in hand, ribbon still melted to the sole, letting the silence behind her burn slow. The graveyard sat just beyond the fence line, past the dead wheat and the rusted-out plow that hadn't moved in 10 years. The sun was low when she reached it, not golden, not red, just tired. There were no flowers here, no flags, just stones, most cracked, some crooked, all old enough to have forgotten who laid them. She walked slow, didn't read the names out loud. She stopped when she saw them, 2 graves, 10 feet apart, bearing the same name. Ephraim Slade, one stone new, white, machine-cut, clean lettering, planted like pride. The other old, chipped, faded by wind. The name almost rubbed out. She stared between them, 2 graves for one man. She looked down at the older one. The dirt felt wrong, settled too smooth, too flat, like it had never been dug deep. She knelt, set the shoes beside her, started clearing leaves, then loosened the dry topsoil with her hands. No shovel. Just fingers and bone. 3 inches down, her nails hit wood. Not a casket, a box. She scraped the edges, pulled it loose. A cedar box, small, blackened at one end. She opened it. Inside, an envelope, yellowed, sealed. Her mother's name written on the back, and below it, one word, Sheriff. She stared at it like it might vanish. Her breath hitched. She touched the flap. Didn't open it. Not yet. She stood, looked from the envelope to the clean stone, then back to the weathered one. 2 graves, one man, one truth buried deeper than roots. She whispered, "He knew." A voice behind her said, "They all did." She turned. Sheriff stood at the fence, hat off, hands in his pockets. "I followed you," he said. She didn't answer. He stepped closer. "I always wondered why there were 2. You put the new one in." "No." The governor did. She looked down at the letter. "This was meant for you." He stopped moving. "Why didn't she send it?" he asked. "Maybe she knew you wouldn't read it." He stepped around the older grave, looked at the lettering. "She carved this one herself," he said. She waited until after the verdict. He nodded. I remember the day. No one showed to help bury him. She didn't ask. No, he said. She just dug. The girl turned the envelope in her hand. You think she put this here on purpose? She knew you'd find it. She didn't open it. Not yet. Just walked to the headstone, sat beside it. The ground was warm from sun, the kind of warmth that never made it to bone. She placed the shoes on the grave, burnt sole up, ribbon visible. Sheriff sat across from her. You ever wonder why she'd let you live? I was 5. Still, she shrugged. Maybe because someone needed to remember. He rubbed his chin. You think that's what this is? Memory? No, she said. It's correction. The wind tugged at the grass, made the shoes shift just slightly, like they wanted to face her. She finally opened the envelope. The seal cracked like old skin. Inside, 2 pages, handwritten, lines shaky. She read aloud. To the man who carried my daughter out of the fire. I know you think that saved her, but it didn't. It just gave her a longer sentence, one she didn't deserve. The sheriff lowered his head. She continued. You watched Ephraim walk free 3 times. You knew what he did, to me, to others. You saw the bruises. You saw the blood on the courthouse steps. She stopped, looked at him. You remember that? He nodded. I told them it was animal blood. She returned to the letter. I wore cloth he handed me. Washed blood he spilled. I kept my mouth shut because the governor paid my rent. And he paid yours, too. The sheriff looked down, said nothing. She read the last part softly. My daughter don't know yet what was done, but she will. And when she does, I pray you'll be man enough to admit what part you played. She folded the letter, hands trembling. He said, I never got that. You weren't meant to. She placed the letter atop the shoes. Wind tried to lift the corner. She pressed it down. You going to tell the others? He asked. She didn't look at him. No. Why not? Because this isn't for them. This is between me, her, and the grave you let him keep. He rubbed his eyes. I was young, she snapped. So was I. They sat in silence. Then he asked, why 2 graves? Because the first one was hers. He blinked. She dug it, filled it, carved it, said his name so she'd never forget who lived while she didn't. She put his name on it. She put his guilt in it. He looked over at the new grave. So what's that one? The one the governor bought after Ephraim served his time and died in a fire that no one questioned. You think he's in either of them? She shook her head. Doesn't matter. He stood. What now? She looked up. Now you read this. He took the letter, folded, pressed it to his chest. Then she pulled the old grave marker forward, just enough to see under it. A second envelope, smaller, unmarked. She opened it. Inside, a lock of hair, blackened, curled, tied with a scrap of red thread. She showed him. He stepped back. That's her hair. No, she said, it's mine. They both stared at it. She left it to prove I was part of the fire, she said. He whispered, you always were. She reburied the box, packed the dirt down tight, set the marker straight, then pressed the shoes flat into the soil, like a child could still wear them. Say her name, she said. He hesitated, then said it. Mary Alice Wren. She nodded, stood. The letter stayed on the grave. The lock of hair went in her pocket. You going to the barn next? He asked. Yes. You want backup? No. You sure? She looked at him one last time. I'm sure of everything now. Then walked away. The sun dipped behind the ridge, left the 2 stones in shadow, and somewhere beneath, what was buried began to breathe again. She read the letter slow. Not because she couldn't understand it, but because every word felt like a weight being placed on her chest, one at a time. It wasn't her mother's voice in the ink. Not anymore. This wasn't a goodbye. It was a record, a ledger in cursive. The paper had softened over time, but the words hadn't. She sat in the sheriff's office, floor cold beneath her, the shoes still on the desk. The ribbon now wrapped around the base of his lamp like a noose trying to remember how to hold something. She traced the date at the top, August 3rd. Year blurred, governor's crest embossed in the corner. Below it, for the transport of girl Dishonor 12. Payment rendered in full. Delivery confirmed by Ephraim Slade. No incident. Replacement arranged. She blinked. Girl number 12. She flipped to the next page, names redacted in smudged ink, but the numbers were clean. Payments stacked like bricks. $40 for cloth, $80 for silence, $120 for return. And beside that, one sentence underlined twice. One girl returned, unable to speak. Recommend reassignment. Her fingers clenched the page. A knock came soft against the frame. She didn't look up. The sheriff stood there, hat off. "You readin' it all?" he asked. "Yes." "You understand it?" "Too well." He stepped inside. "You see the page with the initials?" "I saw the governor's." "And the preacher's?" She nodded. Wasn't surprised. He sat in the chair opposite her, not behind the desk, just across from her. "They signed it like it was just business," she said. "It was." She held up the last page. 14 girls, 7 sent north, 2 returned, 1 buried here with no name. He leaned forward. "That why you came?" She looked him in the eye. "No," she said. "This is why I'm staying." The room went quiet. He reached into his coat, pulled something wrapped in cloth, unfolded it slow. His badge, same one she'd stared at when she was 5, the one that looked heavier than it ought to be. "If I hand you this," he said, "you carry what it cost." She didn't hesitate, took it, cold metal against her skin. She didn't pin it on, just held it, let it rest in her lap like something sleeping. He said, "That badge made me look the other way more than once." She said, "Now it's gonna make me look straight on." He nodded. "You gonna wear it?" "No." "You gonna burn it?" "Maybe." He stood. "There's more letters," he said. "Back in the barn." "I know. You sure you want to see what's left?" "I already have." He looked at the ribbon on the lamp. "You tied that tight. It always comes loose if you don't." He walked to the door. "I'll wait outside." "I won't be long." He stepped out. She spread the pages across the desk, laid them flat, lined up the dates, the payments. One entry caught her. Girl number 3, rag washer's daughter, delivered intact. Vocal, untrained, will require correction. She stared at that word. Correction. She whispered it to herself, like testing a wound. It still stung. She flipped the page. There, a note in different handwriting, smaller, nervous. Sheriff witnessed transaction, asked no questions. She pressed her thumb to it, smudged the ink, so it wouldn't read the same again. She gathered the papers, folded them into a stack, pressed them into the firebox behind the desk. Didn't light it. Not yet. Instead, she turned the lamp low, stared at the ribbon. Then at the badge. Then back to her hands. They weren't shaking anymore. The sheriff reappeared in the doorway. "You ready?" "Yes." "You know where the barn is?" "I was born closer to it than I was to home." "You want me to drive?" "No, I want to walk." He hesitated. "You sure? I need the road to feel it." He nodded. "I'll ride behind. Slow." She picked up the badge, tucked it in her pocket, left the ribbon. It could stay there. Let it watch the desk the way no one had before. Outside, the wind had picked up, dust across the street. A dog watching from a porch. She walked past the well, past the signpost, past the house with the broken gate. The badge felt like heat pressed to her hip. At the edge of town, she passed a child holding a doll. The child asked, "You a lawman now?" "No," she said. "I'm what comes after." The child didn't ask again, just clutched the doll tighter. She walked on, toward the ridge, toward the barn, toward what had waited too long in the dark. The sheriff followed behind in silence, not to lead, not to save, just to witness, because this time someone would. She didn't ask for permission, just took the courthouse kindling, a broken crate, 2 armfuls of discarded ballot slips from 10 years ago, dragged it all to the center of the square, right where the governor used to stand during election season, where her mother once knelt, blood blooming in her apron. She placed the shoes first, sole up, ribbon still blackened. Then the rag, the one from the church basement, stitched with an M, nearly lost to wear. Then the letter, the one never mailed. She knelt beside it, lit a match, held it under the paper until it curled, then stepped back. The fire caught slow, like memory. Not a bonfire, not yet, just a whisper of smoke and orange breath. The first to arrive was an old woman from the river's edge. She came alone, No shawl, no shoes, just her cane and her silence. Stood 5 feet back, didn't ask questions, just nodded once. Then a second woman, younger, holding a baby on her hip. Then 2 girls, barefoot, dresses too thin for the wind. One of them pointed. "That's fire." The other whispered, "It's not burning right." And it wasn't. It burned soft, like it was listening. By the time the smoke lifted over the rooftops, a dozen had gathered, then 20. A few men now, coats unbuttoned, some with hats removed, some without hats at all. The sheriff stood back near the well, watching, arms crossed. She didn't look at him. She fed the fire a second match. Then the blacksmith stepped forward, voice like gravel. "What's this fire for?" She didn't blink. "Her name." He frowned. "Whose?" She looked at him, eyes level, voice flat. "Me." Before I remembered. He didn't move, didn't speak, just tipped his chin. Then let it burn. Someone from the crowd called, "You want us to speak her name?" "No," she said. "Just stand with it." And they did. Some crossed arms, some wept. A girl no older than 9 held out a strip of cloth, laid it beside the flame. It caught quick, lit purple, then vanished. The fire grew. No one backed away. Someone else tossed in a photograph. Another, a strip of baby quilt. A tin badge followed, rusted, bent. She didn't ask where it came from, didn't need to. She fed the flame a button from her mother's old coat, the one she'd kept hidden in the lining of her boot. The wind shifted, ash lifted, one piece caught the light, a curl of fabric floating. She reached up, caught it in her hand. It wasn't cold, still warm from the fire, and in it thread. Red, still stitched, still holding. She closed her hand around it, turned to the crowd, said nothing, didn't need to. They were already watching the flame. One man said, "You think this'll change things?" She looked at him. "It already has." He didn't argue. The sheriff stepped forward now, looked down at the shoes. The letter. What little remained. He took something from his coat, a coin, marked with the governor's seal. He tossed it in. It hissed in the flame. She looked at him. He nodded once. "That's the last I owe him." Another man stepped up. He dropped a ledger page, half burned. Name still visible. "Don't want to carry him anymore," he said. The blacksmith put a hand on his shoulder. The fire cracked loud, popped like it had swallowed something true. A girl near the edge started humming, a tune no one recognized, until an elder joined in, then another. Then the sound rose, quiet and shaking, like memory-made music. She turned, watched the wind carry more ash, each ember floating like a soul, almost finished with suffering. She caught another, this one gray, no thread, let it go. The sheriff stepped beside her. "You ready to name her?" She didn't speak, just held out the thread. He took it, wrapped it around his own finger, tight, winced. "She stitched this into you too," she said. He nodded. "Feels like it." Then the governor's son rode in. Too late, too loud. Horse kicking dust where fire wanted silence. He dismounted, shoved through the people. "What the hell is this?" No one answered. He pointed at the fire. "You got no right." Someone threw a stone at his feet. He stepped back. The sheriff said, "Go home." "I am home," the son snapped. "Not anymore," she said. He looked at her, then at the crowd. He realized he was alone. No one stood with him, no one behind. He walked backward, got on the horse, didn't say another word, just left. The wind shifted again, blew ash down Main Street, onto porches, into open windows. Someone whispered, "Let it fall." And it did. Not like destruction, like snow. Soft, final. She stepped forward one last time, dropped a single name into the flame. Not spoken, just written, folded on paper. It caught fire, flared, then turned to nothing. The thread in her hand glowed red once, then cooled. She kept it. Tucked it in her pocket. Walked away. Ash rising behind her. The courthouse bell silent, but something louder now. Her name. Remembered. The courthouse smelled of ash. The fire from the square had drifted here, carrying smoke through the open windows, leaving smudges along the pillars like fingerprints no one could scrub away. She walked inside barefoot, shoes still sitting on the grave where she'd left them. Her steps echoed. Every heel mark sounded louder than it should have, like the building wanted to tell on her. The clerk sat at his desk, thin as a matchstick, hair greased flat, ink stains on his sleeves. He didn't look up at first. He was bent over a ledger, pen scratching, tallying names that weren't supposed to be remembered. She stopped in front of him, waited. Finally, he looked up, frowned. "You again." She said nothing. Just set the letter on the desk, the one that had almost burned in the square, edges singed. His eyes flicked over it. He didn't touch it. "What do you want?" She pulled the badge from her pocket, set it beside the letter, then laid her hand flat on the open ledger in front of him. His frown deepened. "That's official record." She nodded. "So write it." He shook his head. "Don't work like that." She picked up the pen, dipped it in the well, then paused. Her finger went to her mouth. Bit down. Hard. Drew blood. Red welled. She pressed it to the page, dragged her finger across the bottom line, wrote her name in slow, uneven strokes. The clerk's chair scraped back. "You can't—" She looked up at him. "That's what you said to her." He blinked. "I was a child," he said weakly. "So was I." The room tightened. He stared at the page, at the blood drying into the paper fibers. "You don't belong on this list," he whispered. She leaned close. Neither did she. "But you put her there anyway." His throat worked. He tried to speak again, but no sound came. She dipped her finger again, pressed another drop of blood onto the paper, sealing the name like a stamp. "This ledger belongs to me now." He stood, trembling. "Do you know what you've done?" "Yes, I corrected it." He reached for the badge. She stopped him. "Not yours," she said. "It was never yours either." She smiled without warmth. "It is now." The clerk stepped back, eyes darting to the door. "You'll bring them down on you," he warned. "They're already here." The sheriff's shadow filled the doorway. The clerk paled. "You letting her do this?" The sheriff didn't answer, just leaned against the frame. The clerk sputtered. "She's nothing. She's a rag. She's—" The sheriff cut him off. "She's the only one writing truth in that book." The clerk's face twisted. He looked back at her. "You think this makes you powerful?" She pressed the badge down on the blood. Hard. Left its outline stamped into the page. "No," she said. "It makes me remembered." The clerk whispered, "They'll erase it." She leaned closer, voice flat. "Then I'll write it again. And again. And again. Till the page runs out." He stepped back, knocked over his inkwell. Black spilled across the desk. She didn't move. Let the ink smear her blood into a darker mark. The sheriff finally spoke. "Ledger's done. Close it." The clerk hesitated, then shut the book. Slow, like it weighed more than stone. She picked up the badge, slipped it back into her pocket, turned toward the door. The sheriff moved aside. The clerk shouted after her, voice cracking. "Where are you going?" She stopped in the doorway. "Governor's mansion." The clerk laughed, high and nervous. "You won't make it through the gate." She looked back over her shoulder. "Then I'll burn the gate too." The sheriff followed her outside. The air smelled heavy, smoke still rising from the square. "You sure about this?" he asked. She didn't answer, just walked toward the mansion on the ridge, the badge warm against her side, the ledger line still wet with her blood. She walked up the hill without slowing, gravel loose under her steps, wind sharp with the smell of something that had once been sweet, lilacs maybe, or the memory of them. But nothing bloomed here anymore. The governor's mansion sat high and quiet, paint peeling off white pillars. Iron gate rusted through in 3 places, the kind of rot that came from inside. She didn't knock, just raised her hand. Before she could touch the bell, the door opened. A woman stood there, tall, gray at the temples, dressed plain, but nothing about her was poor. Governor's wife. She looked down, saw the ribbon tied at the girl's waist, paused, then stepped aside. No words, no blessing, just space made. She stepped in. The foyer echoed, grand once, now hollow. Wallpaper faded like memory left in sunlight. The woman closed the door behind them, still silence. Then, "You want him?" She nodded. "I want what he paid for." The woman didn't blink. "He's not here. He doesn't need to be." They stood staring at each other in the dim light. Then the woman turned. "This way." Up the stairs. Slow. No creaks. Like the house had stopped complaining, they passed portraits, Men in stiff collars, women with no smiles, no children. At the end of the hall, the woman opened a door. The nursery, soft blue walls, one curtain still drawn. The crib was empty, but it rocked, gently, back and forth. No draft, no movement, just rocking. She stepped inside. The air felt thick. The governor's wife stood in the doorway. She said, "They called it a trade." The girl ran her fingers along the crib rail. It was a theft. The woman nodded once. It was a pattern. On the dresser, a hairbrush, wooden, one tooth cracked, dried blood where the handle met the bristle. She picked it up. Who did this belong to? The woman said, "One of the girls. I stopped asking names." She turned. Why? Because he never kept them. She stared. You knew. I helped him pick the dresses. The girl didn't speak. The crib kept rocking. The woman stepped inside now. Do what you came to do. The girl pulled the badge from her pocket, set it on the crib pillow. It didn't slide, didn't shift, just stayed. The rocking stopped. The woman whispered, "You think that's enough?" "No," she said. "It's just what I have." She turned to the candle on the dresser, long, unlit, wick clean. She pulled the match from her dress, struck it. Flame hissed, touched wick, light flared. The room felt warmer. The woman stepped back. That candle hasn't burned in 10 years. Then tonight it does. The girl faced the flame. "It's not for the governor," she said. The woman asked, "Then who?" "For her, the one who never got rocked, the one who never got named." The candle flickered. The crib didn't move. The hairbrush lay beside the flame now. The room held its breath. The woman whispered, "You want to burn this house down, don't you?" "Yes." "Why don't you?" She looked around. "Because someone might still be in it." The woman's eyes filled. The girl stepped closer. "You stayed. I couldn't leave. You could have spoken. I was a governor's wife. You were a mother." The woman broke then, turned away, shoulders shaking. "I named her," she whispered, not out loud, but in the dark. The girl asked, "What name?" "Clara." She nodded. "She yours?" "No, but she cried like mine." The candle sputtered. The girl touched the flame with her breath. It steadied. The badge glinted once, then dulled. The woman stepped back to the door. "I'll leave you here." The girl nodded. "I won't stay long." "Will you forgive him?" "No." "Me?" The girl hesitated, then said, "Maybe." The woman left. The door didn't close. The flame danced. She stood alone in the nursery, crib still, badge glowing faint. She reached down, picked up the brush, held it to her chest. "This was never a house," she said. "It was a sorting room." She turned, walked to the window. Outside, the street lamp blinked. The sheriff leaned on his truck, waiting. She blew out the candle. Smoke curled, but didn't rise. It sank, fell into the crib, settled on the badge. She walked out, left the door open, let the house breathe for the first time in years. The governor waited on the front lawn. Didn't hide, didn't pace, just stood with his hands behind his back like this was a meeting, not a reckoning. The firelight from the nursery window flickered behind her as she stepped out. He looked up, took in her bare feet, the blood at her collar, the empty crib now glowing behind her. He said nothing, so she did. She stood on the porch and named the first one. "Clara." The wind picked up. He blinked once. She stepped down to the grass, named the second. "Joanna." The flame behind her caught the curtains. Just a lick, just enough to cast shadows across the siding. "Elsie." "Marie." "June." He didn't interrupt, didn't blink again, just listened. His jaw clenched at Martha, his mouth opened slightly at Evie. By the time she said Lark, the candle in the nursery window flared. It cast a glow across the yard that made the governor's white shirt look stained. She stepped closer. No headstones, no birth papers, just trades. He exhaled slow. "They were cared for." "No," she said. "They were sold. I never laid a hand." "You didn't have to." The shadows grew taller behind her. The flame in the crib flickered sharp. She named 3 more. One made his eyes wet. "Was she yours?" He didn't answer. "Thought so," she said. He adjusted his collar. "You've made your point." "No," she said. "I'm still making it." Then she named the mothers, each one buried in cloth, each one unnamed in the ledger. She named them slow, soft, one by one. The girl who died after the barn, the woman who hanged herself behind the courthouse, the one they said disappeared but left her child on the steps. He swallowed. "What do you want?" he asked. She took another step. The grass gave way to gravel. Her feet bled. She didn't stop. "I want a name on the gate." He looked confused. "Whose?" She looked at the house, the flame now visible through a second window. "Hers, and every girl you called a rag." The governor's hands finally came out from behind his back. They were shaking. "You'll ruin me," he said. She tilted her head. "You're already ruined. I'm just saying it out loud." A sharp pop came from the nursery, glass cracking. He turned to look. She didn't. The house wouldn't burn fast. It had too much memory to give up all at once. He stepped forward. "You want money? An apology?" She stepped back. "No," she said. "I want memory, and I want it nailed in iron." He looked at the gate, the black one at the end of the drive, cold and rusted, still tall, still locked. He said, "That's my family's gate." "No," she said. "It's hers now." The candle behind them flickered again, then went out. The wind carried smoke across the lawn. She reached up, untied the ribbon from her wrist. Red, faded, still knotted. She walked to the gate, tied it to the center bar, tight, let it hang there like a flag. He followed, watched her hands. "You think that's enough?" "I think it's a start." He looked at the ribbon like it might speak. Then he turned and walked back toward the house. Not running, not speaking, just smaller now. The girl stood at the gate, watching the smoke rise, watching the wind shift. The ribbon fluttered once, then held still. The wind had died by morning. No ash on her shoulders, no blood on her feet, no flame at her back. Just the ribbon, tied in her hair, like her mother did once, before the trial, before the ledger, before the barn, before anyone decided what kind of girl she'd be. The road home wasn't long. But her steps were slow, each one softer than the last. The governor's mansion smoldered behind her, smoke rising low, reluctant, like the house didn't want to go, but knew it had to. She didn't look back. The iron gate remained, the ribbon tied at its center, a strip of memory that refused to burn. She passed the blacksmith's porch. Empty now, his tools gone, door wide, past the preacher's church, shutters drawn, bell rope cut, past the square where the ashes had cooled. They left them there, didn't sweep, didn't bury, just let them lie like something holy. By the time she reached her cabin, the sun had cracked open over the ridge. The porch creaked under her step, and he was there. The sheriff, sitting on the top stair, hat in his lap. He didn't stand, didn't speak, just looked at her like she was someone else now. Maybe she was. She stepped up beside him, barefoot still. He held something in his hands, a ledger, bound new, blank. He offered it without words. She took it, ran her thumb along the edge. Clean pages, no names, no scars. He said, "You want coffee?" "No." "You sleep?" "No." They sat in the silence. It didn't press like before. It waited. Then he asked, "You want me to go?" She looked at the ribbon in his hands. He wasn't holding it, just noticing it, the way it caught the wind, the way it didn't belong to her, not completely, but stayed anyway. She said, "You still carrying your badge?" He shook his head. "Left it in the square." "Good. You keeping yours?" She touched her pocket. Empty. "No," she said. "Let it burn." He nodded. Then, "You gonna open that?" She looked down at the ledger, unfastened the strap, cracked it open. First page, white. Not even a title. He said, "You want to write what happened?" She shook her head. "No." "Then what?" She flipped to the second page, ran her finger across the top margin. "I'll write what happens next." The sheriff stood, left the porch quiet, didn't say goodbye, didn't have to. She watched him walk to the fence line. He stopped there, looked once over his shoulder, then kept going. She turned back to the blank page, sat on the porch floor, cross-legged like a child, took the ribbon from her hair, unknotted it slow. It still smelled like soapstone and smoke, like lye, like her mother's hands. She dipped the end in the inkwell, let it soak, then pressed it to the paper, not to write a name, not to carve a date, just to mark the page. A line, crooked, smudged, but hers. She drew another, and another. Not letters, not testimony. Truths. The kind that don't need grammar, the kind that bleed. Outside, a girl passed by the fence, barefoot, holding a ribbon of her own. She stopped, watched, said nothing, then tied her ribbon to the gatepost, kept walking. Behind her came a boy, maybe 10, held a badge, bent, laid it in the dirt, kept walking. The sun rose higher, the porch warmed, and the ink dried. She turned the page, wrote again. No one told her what to say. No one asked. But the story came anyway, slow, steady, line by line. By.